all of you got to meet Matt this morning. Matt and I have been working together for the last 3.5 years virtually. This year I wanted to do something a little different for the summit and invite a guest in and kind of try to instill some health and fitness into our company culture. I think it's important, not only from a work perspective, but many of you have kind of asked me questions about health and fitness and what I do, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to bring that in, meet him for the first time, introduce him to all of you guys, and let him give a presentation, and hopefully you guys can find some value in that. So without further ado, it's my pleasure and honor to welcome you, my coach and friend, Matt Wilber.
First and foremost, thank you all for having me here today. It's an absolute pleasure. As George mentioned, my name is Matt Wilber. I'm the founder of Heroic Health. I'm a strength and nutrition coach. And today I want to talk about why you guys getting in the best shape of your life is the most important thing that you can do for yourselves as well as Protex. Now, I was going to have you all get up and do squats and jump around, but the room's a little bit tight, so you get off on that. But anybody that's going out to dinner tonight, who knows? We'll see what happens. So I want you guys to imagine for a moment that Doc Brown has a special formula. He's got a special formula to give you more energy every single day. He's got a special formula to turn back years and give you more quality years, to give you more happiness, more joy, more focus, more ability to do the things that you like to do. Because your body and your health is at the core and center of everything, right? How you show up in your day-to-day life here at Protex, with your family, with your friends, your body's at the center. The only trick is you can't jump in the DeLorean and head back in time and have it happen instantly, all right? It's got to be earned. And when I talk to a lot of folks about their health and fitness, the first thing that comes up is I don't have the time. I don't have the time to invest into myself. And I get it. We all have busy schedules, right? So I've got 2 young children, run a company as well, husband. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm taking prereqs to go and get my master's in nutrition. So when I say that I understand you guys' schedules are packed and you all have different unique schedules, I want you guys to really feel that. But I want to shift your perspective a little bit, because my thought process is I don't have time to not be healthy. I don't have time to get sick because I'm not taking care of myself. I don't have time to show up in this room here today and not have the energy to speak with you guys because I'm not at 100%. My wife, my daughters, my clients, and you guys all deserve me at the best. And it should be the same for every single one else in your life. So we're going to talk about a couple of recurring themes today. The first is prioritize time, take action. Prioritize time, take action. I'm going to say it over and over and over again because we build these things up to be more than what we think. So what I want you guys to focus on first when we enter this conversation, we're going to talk about strategy, is to lower the bar, to lower the friction. It's a concept I talk with clients about all the time. What's the lowest friction way that we can get you moving in the right direction? It's going to be different for every single one of you because you have your own unique lives, goals, roles here at Protex. But that doesn't mean you should lower the standard in how you take care of yourself. And when you think about Protex's mission to inspire the next generation through play, how can you truly do that if you're not moving and taking care of yourself? So has anyone heard the phrase, to outrun the bear? Anyone here? Okay. So it's very simple. And when people step into this game of health and fitness, they think they need to outrun the bear, whether it's comparison to someone else, but you just need to outrun the slowest person. And what that means for you guys is you just need to get a little bit better every single day. There's no hacks to this stuff, and we're going to talk about that. But as you guys start thinking about what are my own goals, why is my body and health important to me, why do I want to make a change, I want you to start from a place of reality. What is the pace that you can go at? Because some of the people in the room, they're going to be able to go at 10%. Some of the people are going to be able to go at 80%. It's going to be very different. but that doesn't mean you shouldn't start moving forward. And I want to talk about you guys entering this conversation and journey with the mindset of, I am going to commit to this for a full year, whatever your goals are. This is going to be very simple. And the reason why we're going to talk about body composition, which is less body fat, more muscle, but this is going to tie into the overall optimizing your health picture. The statistics of people maintaining results are not good. Less than 20% of people who reduce their body mass by 10% keep it off after a year. Less than 15 after 2 years. Less than 5 after 3 years. Now, there's a couple things I want to point out. First and foremost, you've got a guy in the room here right now who's beat all these statistics. So what I'm talking about today, this isn't something I just read in a textbook. This isn't something I thought would be fun to talk about, that I just made up, that I just pulled out of my butt. This is stuff that actually works, and George is a great example of that. So we have to approach this from, how can I run this race for the rest of my life? But I want you to just think about this year ahead. And it's to defeat this. This is what I see over and over again. I've been coaching for over 7 years at this point. People are really excited. Maybe someone talks like this and they start their journey. They start to see some results. Life happens, right? Kids get sick, work picks up, fall off track, lose all the results, and they start over again. And to get that wheel turning over and over again, it's very difficult if you guys have started a journey before. It's tough once you lose the momentum to keep it going. So this is the mindset I want everyone thinking about with everything that we talk about. This is from James Clear of Atomic Habits. If you enter this year of how can I improve my health and my body by just 1%, if you're able to just run from the slowest person 1% faster, how could that compounded effect impact you? Who could you show up as? Because the skinny kid with no confidence that started weight training over 12 years ago, he wouldn't be up here giving this presentation. He wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in this room and have the privilege to speak with all of you guys. I was talking with Bill. We were out there. He said, this has been truly life-changing for me. I think George would agree as well. The person that you can become by mastering your body and health allows you to do everything better. So as you think about today, we're out to dinner, as you think about as you travel home, what is getting in the best shape of life look like to me? And it needs to be individual for every one of you. It's not about having six-pack abs, it's about who you can show up as. So you can do the things that you like at a higher level. I want you to get very clear on those goals, but then I want you to just kind of push them aside. And the reason why I say that, and this is laid out very specifically this way, the skills, practices, and daily actions are far greater than your goals. Because if you look at where you want to go, if you look at the approach that you want to take, it can get very daunting. And I want everyone to focus on simply everything that we're going to talk about. How do I win the moment so I can win the day, so I can win the week, and then you just do that over and over again. And this is not a game of perfection. It's about continuous progress. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and this is a quote from Eugene Sandow, life is movement. Once you stop moving, you're dead. Choose life. This is the first pillar. And I'm going to get very real with you guys for a second. It'll be coming up on just about 2 years that my dad passed away. Okay. And one of the hardest things was to see a man, he wasn't in incredible shape or anything like that, but a man that I viewed as strong, as healthy, as vibrant, body break down. To see him get so weak. I remember a couple of nights before he came home from hospice, I'd gone to see him at the intensive care unit. And I was just waiting there with him. I thought he was asleep. And I went to go, and I went to leave. And he asked me to stay a little bit longer. And when he was literally on his deathbed, he didn't care about the house. He didn't care about money. He didn't care about any of that. But the one thing he wanted, He wanted to go on more adventures with my mom. He wanted to run around with his grandkids. And I'm not saying the things that we're going to talk about would have prevented that as he passed away of lung cancer. But what I am saying is that the choices that we make with our body and health, they matter. They really matter, and we take it for granted every single day. That's why this stuff is so important. So today's a great example. Most of us are sitting all day. We're at work. Many of you might be behind the desk. Maybe you're in trucks. Some of you are probably on your feet. This is the new norm for the majority of us. This is not how things are supposed to be. We're not supposed to be sitting down all day behind a computer screen, indoors, especially those of you that are up north. It gets pretty depressing this time of year. Right? This is not how things are supposed to be, but we still have responsibilities. And if you take it a step further, all right, so maybe you're sitting all day at work, you get in the car, what are you doing? Sitting. What are you doing at the end of the night because you had such a long, hard day? Sitting. Maybe Netflix and chill. Don't get me wrong, I love Netflix too. This is something I want to share with you guys. I'm going to read it very directly because I want this to hit home. There's a study, they followed 4,840 men and women over 40 years of age and older for about 10 years. So this is a pretty significant study. This is a big group of people. And these were folks who were taking 8,000 steps daily. They had a 51% lower death rate from all causes compared to those taking fewer than 4,000 steps. I don't know about you, but if walking was a stock, I would definitely invest in it. Here's another one. There's a larger cohort, 16,000 older American women, around 72 years old. Followed them for 4 years. Found just taking 4,400 steps a day had a 41% lower death rate than those taking 2,700 steps. Now, I know I'm talking about death, but I do want to emphasize the importance and the seriousness of this. Walking is one of the lowest barriers for entry. It is a foundational habit that every single one in this room should be doing. It improves your focus, lowers stress, improves your mood, improves your cardiovascular health, right? It's better focus, improves your sleep. And for those of you that are concerned with body composition, so losing body fat and building muscle, my background is originally in bodybuilding. I competed for over 7 years. And if you're wondering what I did in addition to nutrition, which we'll talk about, to get lean, we did a lot of walking. We did a lot of low intensity. So I know this is very basic at face value, but this is the stuff that actually matters that you can literally implement today. So we're talking about bandwidth and what you have the capacity to do. Everyone in this room can walk for an extra 10 minutes a day. Right? If you're overwhelmed, you don't know where to start, walking is a darn good place to start. So the key takeaway, when you're looking at, all right, what's the first thing to do? And a lot of you are going to be different. But if I build any strategy, any foundational strategy, it's just like, how do we move? How do we get out of the seat more? How do we use our bodies? Because they are a gift. You need to walk every day, 4,000 plus steps. If you're like, Matt, I don't even know how to start there. Just walk for 10 minutes. There's plenty of tracking devices, plenty of things that you guys can do to just start doing that. The data and the research is there. I don't know about you, but I want to be here as long as possible, doing cool shit as long as possible. So tips for success. Start early. Right? What if you just got up an extra 10 minutes every single day, went for a 10-minute walk, got your head clear, got your head in the game before you showed up and got online at Protex? That's what I do every single morning. Get up, 10-minute walk. I know Bill likes to take some pretty long walks as well. Break it up throughout the day. So there are actually studies as well that show that breaking up the chunk of time that you're behind the screen every 50 to 60 minutes improves your productivity, improves your focus, right? Probably a good thing if you guys want to continue to grow. Take the more active route. You know, I had all kinds of crazy delays at the airport. And my first flight though, I walked back and forth, the people waiting to get on a plane, to sit on a plane for hours, to just stand there, put in 10,000 steps that day. Like, why wouldn't I move? I get it, some people are tired. Take the stairs, park further away. Again, I know this is very, very simple, but it's the simple stuff that compounded over time. If you take one 10-minute walk, is it going to change your body? No, but it starts to compound when you do it every single day, and it's very easy to do. All right, so that's the first thing that I want to emphasize. The second thing, let food be thy medicine, and thy medicine shall be thy food. If you think about it, this is pretty messed up. They knew all these years ago, you should probably eat some pretty good food. You should probably care about what you put into your body. We just mess it up. We mess it up with some of the modern advances, right? Why? This stuff. It's everywhere, right? And I saw the donuts this morning. They look good. And listen, we're going to talk a little bit more. I want to make sure when we're talking about food nutrition that we're not demonizing any particular food, because a lot of people do that. And it's a really poor way to go about this. This makes it very, very easy to not fuel yourself properly. When you have this stuff easily accessible, whether you're on the road, whether it's just in the house, whether these are your default habits. And then, like, if you're starting to look up nutrition, what's the best diet? You got all these conflicting opinions, all these people talking to you about, oh, this is the best way to go about it, or I lost 30 pounds on this, or this is really what you should do. They don't know anything about you. And if you talk to anybody that's adamant about a particular diet strategy, they get pretty pissed off when you tell them that maybe there's something else that works. And so when you guys approach your nutrition, we're going to talk about what are the core fundamentals that work forever, right? It's like, look at all these diets. It's the best diet: keto, fasting, paleo, carnivore, 21-day fix, Atkins, South Beach. What are some other diets you guys have heard of that aren't up on the screen? Anybody? Nutrisystem. Jenny Craig. Slim Fast. Mediterranean. Right? I don't know if I have vegetarian, vegan. You all have a diet right now. Is it a good one? I don't know. Well, what makes a good diet? There's no magic pills when it comes to nutrition. Everybody's looking for what the best diet is. And if you hop on social media, if you hop on anywhere, there's always someone shouting from the rooftop of, my diet's the best diet. It's the only one that works. If you want to get in shape, this is the way to go about it. And it's a bunch of BS. There are no hacks. There's simple fundamentals that will stand the test of time, and we're going to go into every single one of them. But a good diet is one that encourages movement, gives you energy, right? I don't know if any of you guys have ever done a very low-calorie diet, like 1,000 calorie, like to try and lose weight. You feel miserable. You can't do anything. That defeats the first purpose we talked about, movement and walking. So it should encourage movement. It should give your body the raw materials and nutrients to optimize your health. It should do everything possible so that you look and feel your best. It should be outcome driven. It should be moving you towards a specific goal. But ultimately, it's one that you can stick to, because your nutrition preferences are going to be different than yours or Ken's. Everybody's going to have different preferences. And the key here is what feels easy to you. We're going to talk about the basics that you should have. We're going to answer some questions after. But ultimately, all of the diets that you see out there, they work. And we're going to talk about why, so that you can enter this conversation educated what's best for me, not what's best for all of the fitness influencers and marketers that want to sell you their $20 program. Obviously, I have a health and fitness company, but I want the people that interact with me to be educated, to be empowered to make the right decisions so that they can do this for the rest of their life. So there's only two things that make any of these diets work, and some of them don't even have these two things. But if you want to drop body fat, you want to improve your body composition, you want to optimize your health, it's energy balance. We'll talk about it a little bit more in just a second here. It's get enough protein. If you remember nothing else from this conversation today, energy balance, get enough protein. We're going to talk in detail about these. But I want you to think of fad diets are tactics that tout why they are the best when this is the science and the fundamentals. So Brad Schoenfield, he's one of the leading researchers in muscle hypertrophy, so building muscle, getting fit. He's much smarter than me. I like to take my evidence from people that are smarter than me. So if we look at this pyramid, we're really just going to focus on today these first two. What a lot of people do, they focus on the top. What's the best supplement that I can take? What's the magic pill? What's the hack? George, tell me. Or when's the perfect time to have my meals? Or I even heard some conversation outside, and it's not bad by any means, but there's this nutrient in this food, and this nutrient in that food. That stuff is all good. But when we focus solely on those things, we're missing the bigger picture of what drives health and results. So the first thing that I want you guys to understand, so your body has energy demands every single day. If you just laid in bed, if you did nothing all day, all the metabolic processes going on to run your body, that requires energy. It's called BMR, basal metabolic rate. The reason why that's important is you need to make sure they are adequately fueling yourself so that you can move and do things and not feel like garbage, right? When you undereat to a drastic point, like 1,000-calorie diets, we'll see here what happens. But you need to understand that there's a certain amount of energy your body needs just to chill. Neat. So non-exercise activity. We kind of talk about this with steps and just increasing activity and walking. This is me waving my hands, me walking, talking, expending energy. This all requires energy. This can vary widely, but if you're increasing steps, your mind and what you're doing from an activity point, you can drive this, and if we can control these, we can control exactly where your body goes. TEF. It just means that certain foods require more energy to break down. So it's probably a good thing, right? If you want to optimize your body composition, your health, you should probably look at what those foods are and eat more of them. And there's some other benefits too, and then you see this box just down here. This is exercise activity. This is where everybody goes. They want to change their body and health. How can I work out my way to results? You probably heard the phrase, you can't outwork a bad diet. And obviously this can vary widely, but if your strategy is to train your butt off solely without paying attention to nutrition, you will forever be stuck. You can't train around this stuff. And I want to convey a point here when it comes to metabolism. There's a lot of people, as they age, they start to get in this mindset of like, I'm older, my metabolism's different. And don't get me wrong, your metabolism does slow down a little bit as we age, but it's not as much as you think. And the bigger factor that I've seen from a practitioner standpoint is a lot of people just not eating enough, because you hear the old adage, eat less, move more. Well, that's true, but that's relative, right? Eat less than what? What if you're only having one meal a day right now? What if you're only eating 1,000 calories? You're going to eat 800? I wouldn't do that, right? So if you imagine these here, this first fire is bottom, so suboptimal. This scale is your metabolism. Top is optimal. Now, anytime your goal is to lose body fat, and again, we're talking a lot about body composition, but it all ties into optimizing health. Or on the flip side, if you want to build muscle, we're just doing the other way. Any nutrition approach that you take on over time, let's say you're up there at the top, your metabolism is going to slow down. Now, this is drawn this way to be very drastic, so you can see it. But what happens is, anytime you take on an approach, depending on how many calories you're eating, things slow down. It's just your body's defense mechanism to protect, defend, and restore so that you stay alive. But where a lot of people fail is they start down here, all the weight comes back. Has anyone ever tried any type of nutrition strategy and all weight came back? Right. This is a big reason why. And a lot of it is not necessarily we have an issue losing weight, it's the after, the maintenance. How do we approach this in an intelligent way? One of the most intelligent things that you can do, and I will say it to every single one in this room, if your goal is to lose body fat, is to eat as much food as possible while consistently losing body fat, maybe around 1% of body mass per week. And I'll get you guys some specifics, so don't you worry, I got you some goodies. All right. So we know energy matters. We know our body has certain energy demands. What make up those energy demands? This is the magic, so to speak. These are our core macronutrients. Actually, alcohol is left out. It actually does get its own group, 9 calories per gram. We're going to talk about them. These are, if you think about them, these are your raw materials, right? But if you guys didn't have the rubber product, you wouldn't be doing any surfacing, right? You need the raw materials to do the job. Your body needs the raw materials to function properly. And if you just follow the things we're going to talk about, you'll be light years ahead of everybody else. But there are some nuances where this can get, you need to be a little bit more specific. But first one, protein. This is probably the most important thing that every single person in this room can do, is making sure that you're eating protein at every single meal. You might be like, well, I don't want to get bulky, or I don't want to build muscles or whatever. You got to keep in mind that protein is important for building anything in your body. Hair, skin, nails, it's not just muscles. The other cool thing about protein, it's really hard to overeat. Anybody have like a pound of meat in one sitting? It's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to overeat on protein. The other thing this is going to do, we talked about what are the foods that make our metabolism run just a little bit faster because they take up more energy. Protein's one of them. Now, I don't want to overstate this. That's a good thing, right? If it takes us a little bit more energy to break down, it gives us a little bit more energy throughout the day, more calories that we can consume. If we want to maintain the muscle mass that we do have, we need enough protein. If we want to build muscle, we need enough protein. If we want to optimize our body composition, we need enough protein. It's very, very, very simple. And we're going to talk about what you guys can do in exact specifics, but around 0.8, 1 gram per pound body weight. To make it very simple, for men, that's going to be about 2 palms. For women, maybe around a palm and a half. Get you a good start every single meal. Every single meal should be based around protein. I lost my good slide there. So I want to tell you guys a story real quick about protein. So I met my wife. Been gone on a couple dates, and she's really excited to make me a dinner, a home-cooked dinner. And so I showed up. She made eggplant and cheese. And first, I don't like eggplant. And second, this is when I was really starting to get into the stuff. First question I said, where's the protein? Where's the protein? It's a question I want you guys to ask yourselves. Where's the protein? It's been a running joke that we keep going. So I throw a little trick in here, is veggies. So veggies are carbohydrate. What veggies have is they have a lot of fiber. So insoluble and soluble fiber. This is good because, again, it takes your body a little bit more to break down, helps with digestion, helps with normal bowel movements. So if protein's the first focus, veggies are the second focus. All right, very hard to overeat when you've got a good protein portion, you got a good chunk of veggies on your plate, right? Donuts, on the other hand, it's a different story. Pizza, burgers, and I love all that stuff. And we're going to talk about where that fits in. Second thing in your mind, veggies. Fist, 2 fists, just throw all the veggies at you. Very hard to overeat on veggies. Okay? Our starchy carbohydrates. These are our primary fuel source. A lot of people get scared about carbs, especially with, you see all the ketogenic diets and there's all this noise about them. Your body's primary fuel source, if you want to go run, chase after someone, it's going to be glucose, so carbohydrates, your brain's preferred choice. Now, don't get me wrong. Your body's very smart and great at adapting. You can find other ways, but if you want to feel your best and perform your best, and you want to do the other aspects that we're going to talk about today, you want to have carbohydrates. And they taste good, right? Who doesn't like pasta? So for carbs, for most people, about cup tam, fist, 2 fists. Again, I've got a treat for you guys at the end, so get a little bit more specific on some of this stuff. Fats. Think of fats when we think about optimizing our hormone health. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are all fat soluble. So your nuts, your avocados, oils, fatty proteins like salmon. We need healthy fats to optimize how we function. All right. And so this is how I want you guys thinking. Some of you guys might, weighing food might be pretty intense, and it can be intense for a lot of people. If you want to get the fastest result possible, weighing foods is great. But if you want to just start making some simple shifts, how can you run just a little bit faster? You start looking at your meals and following the structure. Right? Keep it simple. Eat real foods. Right? We don't have to complicate this. We don't have to go and calculate all your calories, and that stuff can help. But if you just focus on eating real foods in these portions, game changer to your health. So here's an example. Now this might be boring. This is Szechuan beef, a bunch of veggies, rice. There are a bunch of numbers up there on like where the calories fall, but this is the cool thing though. When you start to understand, okay, I need to get enough protein and I want to eat mostly real foods 80 to 90% of the time, you fit in the fun stuff. Where a lot of people fail is they think, oh, like I don't want to eat bland food, Matt. Or I can't enjoy this anymore or that. Can't have cheesecake or pizza. Which, cool thing is, you can make better versions of all of those at home. Right? Nothing is off limits when you start to understand this. And I want to really drill that point home for you guys, because then you're in control, you're in charge. You don't have to say no to things, but you do have to decide when it is you're going to have these things, right? So this 10 to 20% of the time, this is what I recommend everybody do when it comes to having the bad foods. I really don't like to say bad foods. I like to say calorie-dense foods. Just there's more calories than if you had a good chunk of protein and veggies and a starchy carb. All right, so you can approach this however you want, but it's like, okay, 80, 90% of the stuff, eat real food most of the time, not hard. Okay, you guys know what real food is, right? Am I? Okay. Single ingredients, minimally processed. And the other 10, 20% of the time, you have the fun stuff. I know we're going to go out, we're going to have a meal tonight. I don't know what I'm going to eat. Might be awful if you look at traditional nutrition. Might be fish and chips and super calorie dense, but that's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to do. But I'm not going to do that every single night. I'm not going to do that for every single meal. I'm going to fit it in. So you can choose 1 meal a week, 2 meals a week. Allow yourself that treat. So it's a little bit easier from a mindset standpoint. Okay, Saturday, we're going out and we're going to town. The next meal's right on track. Or another way that you can go about it, maybe you want to treat at the end of the day. I like frozen Snickers, frozen Twix. You guys ever had those? They're really good. They're really good. So sometimes at the end of a long day, it's nice to enjoy a little treat. You sit down, throw Netflix on. My wife and I will have a little frozen Snickers. They're already pre-portioned. It's like, all right, you can do that too. It just depends on how you want to work it. So the main thing I want to convey is, it doesn't mean not having some of this stuff. You should reduce the ability for you to make the decisions that are not going to be best for you, right? So if your cupboards are filled with candy and cookies and all that stuff, and you have the ability to get some of that out of there so that you only have it when you want it, and it puts you in a good place. And when I'd compete, Saturdays we do a free meal. I still do it this way. And I would go to town. They've got the bakery cookies, the chocolate chip cookies. I get like 6 of those suckers, and have a good, we'll have a good meal, and I'd have some of those, but then they were gone. It's very easy to not have to exercise discipline, because when it comes to willpower around food, you don't have a separate willpower tank when it comes to willpower for work, willpower for your spouse or significant other, willpower to deal with any other stresses that you have going on in your life, and then willpower for food. It's just one willpower tank. So if you can eliminate having some of that stuff around, but allow the opportunity, it makes this process a lot easier. I used to think I was very disciplined. I'm really not. I just reduce the things around me that could screw up the way I want to live my life. So key takeaway, keep it simple, eat real food, and always ask, where's the protein? All right, next key pillar. I had to put my man Jack up here. We all need a little discipline. Exercise is my discipline. So first we got walk more, eat real food, protein first, and get into strength training, strength and resistance training. Now, when we talk about strength and resistance training, TJ, we were talking a little bit. You got a little, this is TJ, right? Okay. Just worried for a second. You're talking about your back issue, right? And, I don't know much about you. We'll talk about it a little bit more after, but we're looking at posture, like quality of movement, maintaining muscle mass, maintaining bone mineral density. Like, that's not very sexy to talk about necessarily. But these are all the things that when you weight train consistently, you get to do cool shit in life more often. You get a body that lives a lifestyle of yes. You don't have to worry when you're going somewhere about how you look or how you feel, or if you'll be able to keep up. Your body can just do it because you're taking care of it consistently. So you don't have to want to look like George. You don't have to want to look like me. I want you guys to be the best version of you, whatever that is. And part of that's going to be strength and resistance training. And a lot of people get scared when it comes to this for a number of different reasons. Some people think they've got to train, 7 days a week, or maybe they're scared about lifting weights, or they don't want to get too bulky. And a lot of people think more equals more, right? I see this all the time. It's probably more with men than women that, I'm going to really get after it. I'm going to train 7 days a week. And I'm like, when's the last time you trained? 2 years. Maybe we should string together a couple days first. Maybe we should find some consistency. And I want to talk about evidence, and then I want to talk about how we apply the evidence so that we make this tangible. So when we talk about seeing positive change in your body from strength training, the evidence is really, really cool. And what it says is low volume. So everybody know what a set is. If you do a set of bicep curls or a set of squats, does everybody know? It's just so that speaking, okay. What this says is 4 to 9 sets per muscle group per week, like relatively challenging. So what that means is, like, let's say we want to train our body. If you did 4 sets of bicep curls, 4 sets of squats, 4 sets of presses, you could train your entire body in one resistance training session a week. If you're challenging yourself, it's going to be different for everyone in this room, and see results. Maybe not optimal or maximal, but when we talk about running just a little bit faster than the slowest person, that makes things a lot easier. It makes it a lot more tangible, where if this is something that you don't really want to do, that's fine, but I'm urging you to do it because it's going to make a massive difference in your overall health picture. You could train your entire body, 1 workout a week, 45 minutes, be done with it. Now, if you want over time to improve the results, probably want to more fall in this category. And this is where a lot of the folks that I work with, they fall when we're talking about like time commitments. And I just want to translate it there. It's like 3-4 times a week, 45 minutes. So just like walking, when I look at maintaining my ability to do cool things, 4 hours a week, in the grand scheme of things, I calculated the percentage before, and I can't pull it up of like my awake time. I think it was like 4%. 4%. That's another investment I'd make every single day of the week. So what does this mean? I probably got ahead of myself. And these are actual screen grabs from the application that we use. Just all different time frames, 38 minutes, 48 minutes, 43, just to show you guys like this doesn't have to take over your life. Just because this is my life and what I do doesn't mean it has to be your life, but it should be a part of it. And we can fit it in very easily. Some principles to just key takeaway here. When you go and you train, be present. You guys owe it to yourself. You put a lot of time and energy and effort into Protex, put a lot of time and energy into a lot of other people, right? One of the things I see over and over again is this guilt about spending time on myself. Man, if the cup is empty, where are you pouring from? So take that time. Maybe George made you mad one day. Instead of getting mad at him, go get some of that frustration out. Go move some weights. Go walk. Make every rep count. So when I talk about this, when you go to train, I really want you guys just focused on what is going to make this movement smooth, right? If we're talking about a squat, it's nice and slow and controlled, even if you can't use a lot of weight. It's more about controlling the end ranges. It's not about what the guy or girl next to you can do. The cool thing about this, what I loved about bodybuilding, is you versus you. It's you versus you. You're just trying to be a little bit better every single day. So you don't need to have an ego about it. Make the movements controlled. A lot of people, when they go and they train, they rush through things. The more you can control the movements, the smoother it's going to reduce your risk of injury. You're going to get more out of it. We're looking at body composition change. Just take your time when we're actually doing the actual movements. Or 3 set a timer. So if you guys are time strapped, one of the things that I've been doing for a while now, and it changes, like this is my maximum window to train. This is what I have planned. If I get it all in, great. If I don't, if the timer goes off, I'm done. Because anything is better than nothing, right? A 10 or 15-minute workout is better than nothing. Now, over time, that might need to change, but we need to eliminate the mindset of this all or nothing. Try to do more than you did last time, right? A lot of people just overcomplicate this. It doesn't have to be complicated. It really doesn't. It really doesn't, okay? So we're gonna talk a little bit about movement selection when you're going and you're exercising. These are the major movement patterns. Squat, lunge, hinge, rotation or carries, pulls. The reason why I share this, these are the things that you should be doing, but these are the things you should be able to do in everyday life, right? These are the things, if you do these movement patterns consistently, helps reduce your risk of injury. Anybody ever have a back issue? Yeah. I had a back issue a while back. I was on the couch for 3 days, literally couldn't get any extension at my hips. It's miserable. I was doing something stupid too. And I do this stuff, but it wasn't because I wasn't training the right things always consistently. And your ability to load your body, it's not only going to change how you look, how you feel, it makes you less injury prone typically when you're doing the right things. So that you don't go and pick something up and throw out your back, right? Other thing real quick I want to talk about is modalities. Because a lot of people, when they approach this topic, they don't necessarily know, what should I do? Maybe I don't feel comfortable lifting dumbbells or barbells or weights, or maybe I want to do body weight, maybe I want to do bands. You can just pick the one that you enjoy, because another key thing when it comes to training is if you consistently do it, then you'll get results as long as you're challenging yourself a little bit more over time. So anybody that tells you, oh, dumbbells, the only way to go. Oh, barbells, don't do any of those machines. Just run away from them, and don't listen to anything they have to say, because there's a place for all of this. And part of it is understanding a little bit more of how it fits into your life. Obviously, I can't have an individual conversation with every single one of you right now, but you got to find the fit that's right for you. So here's just like an example of something when we look at training. George and I trained this morning, and it's pretty similar to what we did. We didn't do any movement prep though, so we get an F on that one. One low risk movement a lot of times is maybe a machine, dumbbells, something that is going to get some blood flow, get you feeling good. Then maybe you have like one heavier compound movement, maybe that's squat, barbell press, row. Maybe you have a couple other movements from that movement pattern selection. So if you did a squat, press, a row, you did planks, there's your workout. You just progressively do a little bit more each time. Now it can get more advanced, get a lot more advanced, depending on where you want to go. It doesn't have to be complicated. And then 5-minute stretching and mobility. So the key takeaway is to lift progressively more challenging things 2 to 4 times a week. Even if you don't like lifting, find the way that you like to do it. Could be in circuits, could be in any of those modalities. All right. Tom Brady. I don't know how you guys feel about Tom Brady. I had to put him up here though, even though I'm not much of a sports guy. Proper sleep has helped me get where I am today as an athlete, and it is something that I continue to rely on every day. Tom Brady. So everything we talked about so far in this last topic is fundamentals. All the pro athletes, this is all the stuff they get just to finer levels of execution on. Now I know we don't have any pro athletes in this room, maybe we do. But why shouldn't you treat your body and train your body so that it functions its best in the things that you like to do? Big part of that, sleep. Right? It's not sexy. How do you guys do with sleep in here? How many hours a night? 7? 5? 6? 5 or 6? 8 to 7. I like that number. 8 to 9. I like that too. We really want to shoot for 7+ hours. And the benefits of sleep, I cannot overstate. Everybody knows that we need to get adequate sleep, and it's tough depending on what you have going on. We got 2 little kids, and I definitely don't get that some nights. I wish I did. But when we talk about how do we recover from all of the stuff that we just did, nutrition is going to help with that. You got to sleep, right? A lot of people think we can just power through. Everybody ever just throwing back energy drinks because you didn't sleep a lot? Think that you're 100%. I've been there. And the easiest way to do that, in my opinion, is to first start doing all the other things that we talked about. Because if you're walking, moving more, you're going to sleep better. If you're fueling your body better, you're going to sleep better. If you're training with weights a few times a week, you're going to sleep better. The next is just set the same wake-up time every single day of the week. A lot of people think I'm a psychopath, but I get up at 4 a.m. every single day. Unless something drastically messes that up. When it comes to entering your day from a place of just certainty and in a consistent routine, this allows for it. When we look at putting some of these things into your life, this allows for it, because for some of you, if you try and exercise, train, walk, later in the day, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. We're on a job, things get pushed out, client calls, something with family. It's happened to me over and over and over again. So if we can set the same wake-up time, it's going to be different for everyone. I'm not saying you should wake up at 4 a.m. That's what I do because it's just what works for me. If it's 7 a.m., if it's 6 a.m., I don't care what the time is, but set the time and stick to it, because then you can build your routines around it. The person who gets up, they have a little bit of time to take care of themselves, put into their body, their health, is going to kick the ass of the person who's rolling out of bed, jumping on the computer like haphazardly every single day of the week. And Pro-Tex is continuing to grow. And you guys are at the core of it. So it means you guys need to continue to grow. You care about how you show up, not just for Protex, but for yourself. That's why I love this stuff. It has changed my life, and I've seen it over and over again. Well, this stuff is sexy, right? Talking about this, it's not going to make me $1 million, but it will get you in the best shape of your life and keep you there for the rest of your life. If you start with prioritizing action and just doing a little bit better each day. So a couple of other key things with sleep. A lot of us, if we set the wake up time, a lot of us struggle with getting to bed on time. I know someone over here. All right, we're on these things. So here's a simple sleep formula. If you do all this other stuff, set the consistent wake up time, and you're still struggling, that will really help. 10 hours before bed, no caffeine. Caffeine has 5-hour half-life. So what that means, if you have 200 milligrams caffeine, 5 hours later, you got 100 still in your system. 5 hours after that, you got 50 still in your system. This can be an issue for sleep. So 10 hours before bed, no caffeine. 3 hours before bed, no work. This is tough. I don't always abide by this one, but it does help. I do actually have an alarm on my phone to stop work, stop doing other things. I have to do that. And I'm not perfect, but it is a reminder. All right, shut it down, Matt. It's time to go. I might maybe work another 10, 15, 20 minutes, but it does help. It's not perfect, but it will help. 2 hours before bed, I'd say 1 to 2, no food. Reason for this is purely digestion, right? Gravity has an impact on digestion. If you got a meal, even if it's a good one sitting in your stomach, some people have a higher risk of acid reflux, things like that. It can be tough to get to sleep. 1 hour before bed, no screens or blue blockers. Right? When we look at the light rhythms and your natural circadian rhythms, the blue light can really interfere with it. So if you can get used to getting up at a consistent time, get a little bit of sunlight. It's tough right now if you're in the north. And then shut down the blue light. It makes it a little bit easier for that cycle to naturally happen, as well as if you do all the other things. And 0, the number of times you hit snooze. I know you guys are laughing, but sleep can be pretty complicated, but this is a good way. If we do all the other fundamentals and then we do this, really puts you in a good position, right? So if you're moving daily, you're sleeping better, you're lifting some weights, feeling your body, you will fundamentally change how your body functions, how you look, how you feel, how you move. Walk, eat real food with plenty of protein, lift something heavy 2 to 3 times a week, heavy is relative, and sleep. It's not, like I said, it's not sexy, guys. Now, I told you guys that I had a little bit of surprise. You're going to have to just bear with me. I will have this completely ready for you by next week. Talked a lot about strategy and fundamentals today. I'm going to have a 30-day roadmap for you guys to follow. Very strategic one where you can step-by-step implement these things if you choose to. And how to figure out exactly what you should do for nutrition, exactly how to figure out where you're at with steps and what to do, exactly what you can do with training, and something that you can follow for 30 days. And we're going to put you in our network. So if you guys want to share in the journey, be a good way to encourage each other. You talk about what your goals are, where you're going. If you want to ask questions, myself and I do have a small team, two other coaches, will answer them. And anybody that wants to talk a little bit more about what their personal goals are, my team and I have set aside time purely just to talk about where you're at and have the individual conversation of how you should approach this. So with that in mind, thank you for your time. What do you have for questions?
Matt, can you go over when this is going to start again?
Yes, absolutely. So we'll have the 30-day roadmap and kickstart ready to deliver by Wednesday, so everybody can get in the community by Wednesday, and then we'll set it to start the following Monday, so you got a little bit of time to prepare, and it is very incremental for those of you just wherever you're starting at. Now, why I want to have the opportunity to speak with some of you other guys is you might have some more advanced things that you want to do, or you might be in a different place, and we might want to tailor that a little bit more for you.
So like, how does hydration play a role in all this?
Good question. So technically water is one of the other macronutrients. The best thing that I can recommend is, first and foremost, when we're looking at optimizing energy and performance, have about half your body weight in ounces of water. Very simple. And a good recommendation when we're looking at just driving results is not to drink calories other than if you're making a smoothie or something like that. Very easy to over consume calories, but that might shift depending on your goals. If your goal is to build muscle and you struggle to get enough food, we might change that a little bit.
So you kind of talked a lot about lifting. Where do you put in cardio as far as like running or swimming in that aspect? And then especially I'm looking to train for a half marathon, so like really putting a lot of time into cardio, but still keeping that muscle built as far as like lifting.
Yeah, good question. So it's definitely going to change a little bit more for you. Like if the end goal and outcome is to run marathons and run long distance, what they'll do a lot of times is they'll cycle the season, and you'll go through a period of where maybe it's 12 weeks, which focus more on like, okay, I'm going to build a little bit of muscle, build a little bit of strength, and then I'm going to drop that down to a maintenance level of training for maybe like 2 times a week. And I'm going to really focus on the endurance side of things. And I'll be the first to say, I'm definitely not the most qualified guy to talk about endurance training and how to really go about it. But I didn't talk too much about like getting your heart rate up higher or high intensity intervals or more aerobic training, purely from the standpoint of like, where should people start? But what we want to look at is the overall picture, right? Like, what do you have available for time? And then how do we fit the long distance runs with probably some time tempo runs, some interval work to improve on your overall VO2 max. So it's a little, like there's a lot of things underneath it, but the short question is, you just want to look at when do I want to do the first marathon? Like figure out what that date is, and if it's relatively close, then you probably only want to weight train a couple times a week and focus more on the aerobic conditioning side of things. But the weight training will help. It will make you a better runner if you can maintain core stability, if you can get better drive, but it's a different energy system that you're training, right? Because it's longer distance. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's probably the best answer I have at the moment. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay, quick question on protein.
Yes.
So some individuals don't like chicken. I know you're big on chicken as a protein. So what are the differences between like, beef, chicken, salmon, whatever?
Yeah, good question. So I'm not necessarily big on chicken or anything. I think people should eat what they like. So all of them do have a little bit of a different, it's called amino acid profile. So proteins are made up of amino acids. They get broken down. So the answer is really, it's like what you like. There's one thing that we want to look at is, okay, we have our leaner protein. So if you look at chicken breast, turkey breast, the 99.1+ ground meats, whitefish, egg whites, that's pretty much just going to be straight protein. There might be a little bit of carbs or fats, but it's mostly just protein. The other side of that, and I like to categorize it this way, is our fatty proteins. So when we talk about salmon, well, it's got some omega-3s, some omega-6s. If we look at steak, if you get a good grass-fed steak, obviously it's going to be fattier. So there's a lot of debate around saturated fat and how much you should consume. And the main thing I would say is just, if you're getting blood work or something like that, have fatty protein once a day. If you have concerns around red meat, have more of the omega-3s like salmon or whatnot. But just from a body composition standpoint, know that some's going to come with fat, and with fat comes extra calories. That's not bad nor good. It's just kind of what's your preference. Me personally, I like to have one fatty protein every single day. So sometimes it's like a 90% beef, sometimes it's flank steak, sometimes I don't do a lot of salmon because it just doesn't prep that well, so I'll maybe do it like once a week. But does that answer your question? So it's a little bit about the macronutrient content and what's your preference. So if you don't like chicken, do turkey, do whitefish, do anything else. You just kind of have to watch the fat content if you're looking at the overall calories.
You've overhead tossed and sitting at a computer for years. What exercises to counter the muscles that have gotten weak and relax the ones that are tight?
Yeah, so especially when you're at a computer for years, what happens typically, so pectorals are going to be tight. You're going to have a bit of internal rotation, some of this going on. So one of the best things that you can do is rear delt work, strengthening the back of your shoulders, as well as mid traps, upper back. You can do simple things like banded pull aparts, reverse flies, doing some stretches too, so you can lean into the wall, but you're going to want to loosen your chest. If you take a lacrosse ball to your chest, and if you're training right now, don't do as much chest work. Focus more on like the pulling, so driving your elbows back, like a 3-to-1 ratio. So if let's say you're doing presses, one pressing movement, you should have 3 pulling movements. It's a lot of rear delt work. That will help with that.
We were talking about the list of various diets. What do you think of Joe Rogan and this carnivore diet he's been on for a couple years now?
So it's one of the ones that I haven't looked too much into, and carnivores, it's just meat, right? It's purely just meat. They don't eat anything else.
Eggs, cheese.
Eggs,
dairy.
cheese. Yeah. So it's
Delicious.
it's pretty similar to a ketogenic diet. My thought is we should have balance, and if you want to look, feel, and move your best, you should have some carbohydrates, some fruits, some vegetables, adequate fiber. Hey, you're missing a lot of micronutrients if you're just purely doing carnivore, in my opinion. So I don't think it's the smartest thing to do. But if someone says, hey, I really like that style of eating, well, maybe you don't do only meat and eggs and things like that. Maybe you throw in some veggies in quantities that make sense for you. You throw in some fruits and stuff like that, but you still get all your protein, but you do a little bit of less of the other stuff because you can shift things. But what I would say is you got to look at like what are your serum cholesterol levels doing? Is that causing an issue for you? Because it does for some people. So I personally wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't do it. We have all these foods for a reason. I think Mother Earth did a really good job when we look at what's available. So typically anything that restricts a core macronutrient group, I tell people to stay away from. But if that helps someone get to a goal and that feels easier to you for a period of time, then I would say do it, but have an exit strategy. So that might feel really easy, like for someone of maybe they want to lose body fat. That feels really easy to do that consistently. They feel good on it. Do it. But just make sure all your other health markers are in place. And that's where some of this individuality comes into play. Because if your health markers are great, you feel great, who am I to tell you not to do carnivore? I don't have a foundation to stand on if you're in good health and you feel good.
He does that AG1 supplement.
Yeah, what do you think of the AG1 supplement?
I think it's $100 a month.
What is the AG1?
30 days. It's like a
Athletic greens.
supplement.
It's all your leafy greens and all everything up powder, and you mix it up and you drink it once a day.
Yeah, so what I'd say with anything like that and supplements in general is even if you kind of follow the principles of you like eat real food, you have a variety throughout the day, you're gonna do a pretty good job, but you might still have gaps. And that's where something like that, if it's a good quality one, can be beneficial. Because if you have some of those micronutrients that you're deficient in, but it's one of those things where you might not be deficient. And if you really want to know, then get a blood test. I'm big on data and kind of knowing where things actually are. But I would, just like in that pyramid that you guys saw, I'd classify supplements at the top of the pyramid, meaning it's the least important, the 1% thing that you should focus on. If you're not doing all the other stuff, I tell people not to really worry about it unless you have a blood test that says, hey, I'm deficient in this or that. Then that's when we probably want to look at it.
Yeah, I did it for a while just because the guys on the road, it's like,
Yep.
just go.
And in transparency, I do a green supplement. I'm a little bit not the best with veggies at times, right? I get a couple meals a day with them, but sometimes, yesterday was not a good day when it comes to like whole food. It's mostly like protein bars, shakes, and you feel it a little bit. But so things like that can be helpful, but just make sure it's not the core emphasis. Make sure everything else is working.
So do you do anything differently for women than you would men?
Good question. So when we look at training, the one thing that I'd actually say is women are a bit tougher. Spend a lot of time in bodybuilding gyms and they can handle more volume. I think it's the ability to give birth. The main thing is that we're getting eating enough food. I see it's very common in women where they're just not eating enough. Especially the diet industry, and this is what I worry about too, especially if I've got 2 young daughters, very harsh when it comes to women. And the image is very much just like eat less, starve yourself. So the principles don't really change too much, but there's obviously are some physiological differences that we need to be aware of. Especially if we're driving at fat loss, we need to be aware that with cycles, body weight, it's gonna shift. You're gonna hold more water at times, things like that. But fundamentally, not drastically different from the principles that we talked about, but those have to align with you as the individual. And I think that's where I really emphasize the differences is like, okay, what's realistic for you when it comes to walking or conditioning? What do you like when it comes to resistance training? What makes sense for you? What foods do you like? Those types of things are the bigger emphasis. And then if we do those things, typically everything else naturally happens, but not all the time.
So in my case, I'm postmenopausal. Does that make a difference?
That absolutely can make a difference. And I can't give you a more educated answer than it can make a difference. But we want to work on making sure the fundamentals are in place, and then what's your body response to that? How are things going? This is things where it might make sense to do hormone profiles and things like that. But I would say get the fundamentals in check. How are you responding? And then it might be like a time to deeper dive some of that stuff, but that one's over my head.
How do you get these people who focus on vegan? They don't get all their food groups. They don't get,
So it's just a little bit trickier when it comes to, there's a lot, there's a lot of great alternatives, and you can get all the protein if you're very smart with how you pair different plants and vegetables. It's just a little bit more difficult. There's plenty of people that do it and do very well on it. If we were looking at, okay, what's the best amino acid quality, it is going to be typically meat, right? But you can still do it. You just have to pay more attention. And the people that have been doing it consistently, it's just kind of like second nature.
Nearly half of us travel, and we're on the road a lot. How do you adjust your diet and figure out where to eat, not to eat, what to eat?
So good question. The first is a little bit of preparation. All right, so one of the things you guys are going to get in that little ramp up, there's an on-the-go snacks guide. And obviously some of that, and we had some of it here today, it's not perfect, right? But we don't live in a perfect world where it's having, some of the protein bars and protein powders, having fruits and things like that. That will help if you have something. So like when I left for this trip, I have enough protein powder to cover me for one meal for every single day. Is it ideal? Not necessarily. It'd be great if I could have real food, but sometimes you got what you got. And then I'll bring some nuts and some jerkies and things like that. That will help. But then when you're out grabbing things, it's just knowing what to get, right? Because there's a lot of great chains where you can actually get like just a good protein, a little bit of veggies. And so I was at the airport and I had the first layover and I found a place. They had chicken sandwiches, grilled chicken sandwiches. I like chicken, so that works for me. They had tomato, vegetables with it. So it's like, okay, all right, that's a decent option. There's not a ton of ingredients and it's not highly processed. So part of it is just knowing, okay, what are the places around that I can get simple stuff? And then part of it's having some things on hand. And sometimes it's just choosing what's the best option of the bad options, potentially. And when I say bad, that's not really as fair, but what's the best option of the most calorie-dense options? So the more you can keep it simple, though, and when you're traveling, kind of look around. What's in the area, right? Am I stopping at McDonald's because I'm just tired and that's what's available? And I'm not saying you stop at McDonald's, but does that help?
Yeah, it's just very difficult. And even when you stop in at a restaurant and trying to figure out what to order, because you really don't know how they're prepping it.
So what I'd say is to not overthink it too much. What I look at when I'm looking at menus and like what I'm gonna grab is, can I get a grilled or baked protein? So basically, is it gonna be, I wanna avoid things that are breaded just because there's gonna be a ton of extra calories with them, there's gonna be extra fat, and I would make the assumption that anytime you're eating out, it's cooked in excess fat. And that's where if you just focus on, okay, where can I get a good protein? Like for example, like what are some meats that you like, or what are some proteins that you like?
Steak, chicken, fish.
So those are pretty easy depending on where you're going. And like I'm not gonna say you're gonna eat at like a steakhouse every night, but if there's, so we have, what is it? Chipotle, the 99 up our way. Like the meals are like $10, and I can go in, I can pick steak, I can pick fish, and I can have that with rice or potato or veggies. And I'd focus more on that. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Where can I get like a grilled or baked version of that that kind of fits in your budget of what you want to spend? And then does it have a lot of stuff that goes with it? And you just want to try and have like, okay, this is my protein, this is my carb, this is my veggie, and skip the fats because it's going to be cooked in it.
Matt, can you talk about, isn't there gonna be like a recipe
Yes.
book or something in that network?
So there's going to be 60 recipes. You literally just kind of plug in and play. There's a lot of different stuff in there. There's like protein pizzas. I don't know if the burgers are in there yet. We'll make sure the burgers are in there. Tons of fast stuff for breakfast. Tons of like sandwiches and wraps. It's another thing. Like if you're on the go, Subway is not the best, but it's not awful. You can go in, you can get like, you can pick your meat, your veggies. D'Angelo's is a little bit better. But there's, as long as you kind of operate with the framework of like, where's my protein and what are the things that go with it, it becomes easy. But yes, I've got a whole bunch of recipes for you guys too. And everyone's gonna get access to the vault, which we're kind of continuing to build, which any video recipes, anything that we do for all time, like all like the trainings, resources that are outside of the like 30 days, just can give everybody access to, because it doesn't cost me anything and I want you guys to have more resources, but it's prioritizing action, actually using them. There's no shortage of information out there.
So my sons and I, we kind of play this game like every time we pick something up before we go to eat it, we look at the back and there's always soy in it. And he's read a lot of bad things about soy. What's your take on soy and why are they putting that in everything?
I would say the simpler that you can keep things, always the better. So I wouldn't, like look, I mean, if you look on the back of nutrition labels, you can drive yourself crazy. But if it's like 2 ingredients in soy, I honestly, I don't know what the research is saying on soy or anything like that. But if you're worried about it, don't eat it. Yeah.
It seems to be in everything these days. That's the crazy thing about it.
I guess it depends what you're at. Like, because if you're buying meats or potatoes or things like that, like, got one ingredient. But it depends on what you're grabbing. So
The other thing that I have is, George keeps talking about how much he thinks he can beat you in arm wrestling. So we've taken some,
let's start taking bets.
I did take all the
Okay,
bets.
I got the
all
bets.
the money together. We just want to see it go down.
All right, so there's recipes in this that are available and stuff. Talk a little bit about meal prep, because that's, fortunately, I'm not out on the road like these guys are, so I've got a little more time to do stuff like that.
So I think a lot of people go wrong with meal prep and they overcomplicate it, especially trying to do too much variety, like having different meals every single day. So we do have the recipes, and what we're working towards with that is basically how can you make a whole bunch of different recipes with little input, and that always starts with protein, right? So if you make 3 pounds of chicken in the crock pot, or if you got a sous vide, or if you got a Traeger, or if you like ground beef, you put a little bit of light seasoning on it, you can change that meal drastically differently throughout the week. So that's what my household we do. We'll cook a bunch of meat. We'll cook some carbs, some potatoes, things like that. We'll do some rice. And then we have meat to pull from throughout the week. So it's like, all right, well, maybe I want barbecue chicken and sweet potatoes one day. The next day I want teriyaki chicken and rice. That's very easy to do, but it's about more just kind of having the raw materials on hand. And with that, if you look at how you kind of approach nutrition, I always tell people to focus on creating a lot of variety within your day. So it's like maybe you're having a different protein source for every single meal throughout your day. Maybe you're having some chicken, maybe you're having some steak, some yogurt, some eggs. But your first couple of meals, so your breakfast, your snack, and your lunch, you just kind of keep those protein sources the same throughout the week, because otherwise meal prep is a huge headache. I spend 45 minutes a week max meal prepping. It's because we use a sous vide, we use a crock pot, and then we'll just add different sauces and seasonings and change out the carbs, because then it starts to become like this like limitless equation. So that's how I recommend people approach it. If you don't want to drive yourself crazy and start to try and eat better, and you're like, oh, I spent the little time that I do have prepping all day. And the other thing too is, depending on where you're at, is there are meal prep companies, and there are companies where you can buy Just Meats. There's literally justmeats.com. They're pretty solid. So, but if you have the protein on hand, the carbs and stuff is really not that hard, depending on your situation. Like if you're on the road, you're not going to buy minute rices. Like you want to get wraps, whole grain breads, pitas, things like that.
So I've been told that I'm a little insulin resistant. So how would you approach someone like me?
So, cool thing about being insulin resistant is that walking helps that, especially walking after meals. It's actually been shown, just increasing steps, taking 10-minute walks after meals. But what we typically see is that's not going to prevent you from losing body fat if that's your goal. When a lot of people like to posit that, like, you know, if you're insulin resistant or insulin's high, you can't get results. It's about energy balance. And what you typically see, it's not always across the board, but the majority of the time is, if you improve your health and optimize your health through consistently walking, improving nutrition, and improved body composition, that goes away. So it's more about, that's a byproduct. It's not going to prevent you from achieving your goals or anything like that. And the things that you do will actually fix that typically.
That's good. Now, I told you before that I like easy. So what if I did like a green smoothie? So all the spinach and avocado and everything on my smoothie, and then I just had protein with it. Would that be a good choice for a dinner?
Absolutely. Like if that's something that feels easy, something you'd want to do and you're willing to do, highly recommend it. Ton of ways that you can add protein, whether it's like, hey, I'm going to get a protein powder, or I like using liquid egg whites. It freaks people out.
I love it. Yeah.
It's closer to real food, and pasteurized makes it fully bioavailable. So it's like you put in 200 grams of liquid egg whites, you throw in all your veggies and everything like that. You just got like 20, 25 grams of protein, all of your veggies, a good chunk of carbs, and it's like,
And that was a meal.
Solid. Yeah, it's a really solid meal. We've got actually a super shake guide that I haven't released to clients yet, but you guys will probably get it first.
And they could do that on the road. They just need a blender.
Yep, absolutely.
And access to the veggies.
Right.
It's something even simpler. Like if it were me and I was on the road, I would just take protein powder and I'd have it in water, and it's like not the most exciting thing, but I'd have, you know, some of the individual serving nut packs with it, or even if like, because then it's pre-portioned, I'd have that, and I'd maybe have like a hand fruit. It's like, that's a complete meal. Is it as good as if you blended up all that stuff fresh? Maybe not, but it's a whole heck of a lot better than some of the other options.
What are your thoughts on fasting and intermittent fasting?
Yeah, very simple. If you enjoy it, do it. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it. So a lot of people really like to push fasting for body composition change. And fasting in and of itself isn't magical. It's energy balance, right? You still have to be aware of what your body needs for energy. It's just going to be in a different window. So it's one of those things where, like, if that feels natural and good for you, then do it. But you still have to be mindful of the fundamentals. But if you're just kind of like more curious, I'd say if you like eating breakfast, which I do, then don't fast. And that's going to be my answer to most things, is when it comes to some of these tactics and strategies, if you like it and it's helping optimize your health, then do it. If not, don't do it. Because it's got to be a lot about like what feels easier to you. And some people just don't like having breakfast.
What about like fasting for longer periods of time instead of intermittent?
So one thing I can comment on is if you look at 24-hour fasts, they are beneficial for improving digestion. So I haven't done too much of it personally, and I haven't done too much of it with clients, but it is something that you can kind of play with. There's some people that are really big on it. I look at it from the lens of, all right, if I want to perform my best every single day, that means I need fuel. And again, I come from a bodybuilding background, so my mindset is like, I want fuel on hand. And so it's not to say that you can't do that, and some people really enjoy it and they feel good. If I fast for 24 hours or longer, I feel like garbage. Like my training is garbage, like I'm grouchy. I tried doing a 24-hour fast, I got through 12 hours. I'm like, I'm having lunch. But definitely some benefits to digestion, and I can't comment on, I know a lot of people push it as far as longevity. The thing that I would consider is, and I was talking to someone about this last night, is that where things can get a little dicey is, was it that strategy and that tactic that improved health, or was it because the person improved their body composition? Because a lot of times they're looking at these to drop body fat, and so your health markers are pretty much always going to improve when you improve body composition. So that's the one side of it where it's like, I'm sure there's a bunch of papers and studies. It's tough to keep up with it. So that's more of like, if you like the idea of it, try it, see how you like it. Is it working with you? But with you and wanting to do some of that longer distance running, obviously that's going to be more fat oxidation. It's going to be a slower energy system. Carbs, your friend, man. 60 grams for every hour. It's like the sports recommendation. If you look at things like the NSCA, strength and conditioning. So that would be a big consideration if you want to do what you say. So you have to make sure they align.
Sometimes with us being out and we don't eat the best things, is there a regimen or something that you can do once a week or something to detoxify yourself from some of the bad stuff that we eat?
Yeah, so your kidneys. When it comes to detoxification, a lot of people wonder about these cleanses and things like that. Our body's naturally built to detoxify things. So what I would focus more on is, how can you shift the aggregate of your decisions? Like sometimes you're just gonna get busy. How can you better prepare so that you do have things, again, we could talk more about your schedule and exactly what's going on, but I would focus more on how can you shift some of your habits to improve them, because one thing a week it's not gonna be the hack to fix it all. But there are ways, I guarantee if we have a conversation, there's ways that we can fit this into what you're doing and make it work for you, because it is a very different conversation being on the road versus someone behind the desk. And I have worked jobs where, maybe not on the road like you guys, but delivering moonwalks and things like that, where I'm in a truck all day and I've got food with me, but I come back home at night. That's a little bit different if you're not coming home.
Is it better to eat trash than not eat at all? Because I've done it. Long hauls on the highway, that's all you got. Yeah. You get off, get gas, it's McDonald's or gas station food. And I'd rather not eat and just keep driving.
Yeah. I would say if it were me, I'd wait until you could get something. Is going to be the better thing. Because when you eat stuff like that too, you feel it. Right? You know you don't feel 100%. Yeah. All the way down. Yeah. So, and that's where, if you have some things in the truck with you, if you got some protein powder, some granola bars, maybe some hand fruits, some nuts, things like that, then it makes it a little bit easier to get to where you can get something more solid and carry you through. And that's how I would definitely approach it, because I typically, if all my options are I'm I might just wait. And that's kind of what happened to me yesterday. It's I had a bunch of protein bars and protein powder. Not ideal, but better than if I got something. Thank you all. Thank you guys for allowing me to speak with you. I hope you got something valuable out of it. Sometimes when I have these conversations, I always worry he's talking about the fundamentals, but it's just a lot of people want to blow smoke up your butt and tell you there's some magic. It just doesn't work that way. So, thank you guys.